Today's case takes us to beautiful Alaska, which becomes the setting for a crime so bizarre and twisted, it sounds like something out of a dark fictional movie. It's a story about friendship, betrayal, and the terrifying crossing of an online world and real life violence. Imagine being offered millions of dollars by a complete stranger on the internet to commit the ultimate crime. For most of us, it's a clear scam, something to block and forget. But for one teenager, this offer wasn't just believable, it was a golden ticket out of her life. The price for this ticket? The life of her best friend, the person who trusted her the most. Hi guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Zara, and on this channel we talk about true crime stories every single week. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss another video. Give the video a like. It takes 2 seconds. The button's right there. Click it, and it really, really does help out the channel. So to everyone that just did it, thank you so much. Let's get into the deeply disturbing case of Denali Brehmer and the murder of Cynthia Hoffman. Let's begin by talking about Denali. Denali Dakota Sky Brehmer was born on February 12, 2001 to her mother Nicole House. She grew up in Anchorage, Alaska and had several siblings. She was the third out of 5 daughters. On the surface, Anchorage is this gateway to incredible natural beauty surrounded by mountains and wilderness, but it also has a reputation for having one of the highest rates of violent crime in the United States. It's such a gritty underbelly that contrasts sharply with this picturesque scenery. Denali's childhood was far from ideal. Court documents and interviews with those people that knew her paint a picture of a deeply troubled home life from the start, really. Her mother, Nicole, had several boyfriends, and none of these relationships were ever really healthy. It's reported that Denali and her siblings were in and out of foster homes due to her mother allegedly being unfit as a parent. However, things would soon take a turn, and in the most horrific way. Denali and her siblings had been victims of child abuse, enduring neglect and violence that no child should ever have to face, and at the hands of her mother's boyfriends. This kind of upbringing can have a profound impact on a person's development, their sense of self-worth, and their ability to make sound judgments. It can make someone desperate for escape, for any sign of a better life, no matter how unbelievable it may seem. When Denali's 5th or 6th sister, I couldn't figure out exactly which one, was only 2 months old, Nicole's boyfriend at the time was charged with killing her newborn daughter, a 2-month-old baby. I don't know how he killed her, but nonetheless, it's horrific. After this, 18-month-old Denali and her siblings were all adopted by different families. I guess the system was trying to put them into better families, and in some ways it worked, but in other ways, how is separating siblings ever the best option? Denali was adopted into a loving, caring family, but even at this young age, psychological trauma stemming from her life with her mother just really ran deep. As she grew up, Denali was described by some as being a bit of a loner, but she did have some friends. She was navigating the typical teenage world of school, friendships, and relationships. And like many people her age, a huge part of her social life existed online. This is where she could connect with people from all over the country, creating an identity and forming bonds in the digital space. She was in a few relationships, she had a few boyfriends, but nothing seemed to last. In 2019, Denali was 18 years old and living in a shared apartment in Anchorage, trying to piece together an adult life for herself with very few resources or even support. She was working, but just barely making ends meet. Her life felt stuck. A cycle of working low-wage jobs with no clear path forward. This feeling of being trapped is crucial to understanding why she was so susceptible to what happened next. This is where the victim, Cynthia Hoffman, enters the story. Cynthia was a kind, sweet-natured 19-year-old girl. She was born on October 8, 1999 to her parents, Timothy and Barbara Hoffman, and she had 4 sisters, Samantha, Kimberly, Sydney, and Raya, and 4 brothers, Tim, Alex, and Jared. She graduated from Robert Service High School and then attended the ACE or the ACT program. This program provides social skills, communication, and independent living skills in the community for adult students who need additional support in life. Cynthia had a developmental disability. Her father described her as having the cognitive ability of about a 12-year-old. This made her incredibly trusting and a little naive. She saw the good in people and didn't always pick up on social cues or recognize when someone might have any bad intentions towards her. Although Cynthia needed additional support at times, she did live a full life. She worked in some restaurants, but what she truly loved was working with her dad in his handyman business, Hoffman Handyman and Repairs. She would do things like mix concrete and take measurements, and she was very close to her dad. She loved her family, loved going for walks, and she loved her friends. And her best friend, the person she trusted more than anyone, was Denali Brehmer. They spent a lot of time together, and Cynthia looked up to Denali. To Cynthia, Denali was cool. She was her guide in the complicated world of being a young adult. Cynthia's family knew about Denali, however, they knew her as Angela, which is weird. I'm not sure why they knew her as that name, but they thought she was a good friend to their daughter. They had no reason to believe otherwise. Cynthia supported Denali through any family drama, was there for her when she needed someone to lean on, talk to, and Cynthia genuinely cared about Denali. Like many teenage relationships, friendships, Cynthia and Denali had a little argument, a fight over a boy named Zach. I think Denali felt Cynthia had betrayed her in relation to Zach. Maybe she talked to Zach, when she knew Denali liked him. Maybe she hooked up with Zach. We don't really know. All we know is that there was some disagreement over a boy. While Denali was navigating her life in Anchorage, she was also building a life online as Angel. Sometime in the spring of 2019, she started talking to a guy on Snapchat. He went by the name Tyler. He was 21 years old, a millionaire from Kansas, had luxury cars and stacks of cash. He seemed charming and successful, everything Denali wasn't. They started talking a lot, and he told her he won millions in the lottery. He began showering her with attention and promises of a lavish lifestyle one day. They spent hours talking together, messaging back and forth, even talked through FaceTime, I believe, but I'm not sure if he ever appeared on camera live, but Denali definitely would. But he made her feel special, seen, and important. This all seemed legit, yeah, because that's exactly how a lottery winner would spend his time after winning millions of dollars on Snapchat trying to talk to teenage girls. But Denali was just 18 years old, possibly living a very basic life, and here comes along Tyler with excitement and hope. But then the conversation soon took a dark turn. Tyler told Denali he had an offer for her. He told her he would give her $9 million, a life-changing amount of money, but it came with a horrific condition. He wanted her to murder someone for him. Not just anyone, though. He wanted her to find someone in Alaska, kill them, and send him photos and videos of the entire thing as proof. He specifically asked for the person to be raped and murdered. This wasn't just a request, it was a detailed set of instructions for a snuff film. If you don't know, a snuff film is an extremely disturbing and illegal video that shows in detail the murder of a person. Snuff films are classified by their graphic and violent content, showing graphic scenes of violence, and murder. Snuff films are produced with the motive of profiting from the ultimate selling of the video. And there are many fake snuff films online, to satisfy the needs of people who truly get off on this shit. So because it's hard to determine what's fake and what's not, this type of content is highly illegal. Now, for any rational person, this request would be a massive red flag. It's an insane, unbelievable, and obviously criminal proposition. But Denali was 18 with a history of trauma and desperate for a way out of her life. She later claimed that she didn't fully believe Tyler at first, but the more he talked, the more he promised, the more the fantasy began to feel like a real possibility. He manipulated her, telling her this was her one shot at life she could only dream of. It's also $9 million, absolutely life-changing money. Tyler would downplay the seriousness of the request and made Denali believe the murder could be justified in a way. So instead of blocking him, Denali started to consider it. She started to plan. She knew she couldn't do it alone, so she recruited others. She turned to two of her male friends, Caden McIntosh, who was 16 years old at the time, and Caleb Leyland, who was 19 years old. She told them about the offer from the millionaire Tyler. She promised them a share of the money if they helped her carry out this murder, $500,000 each to be exact. Like Denali, they were young and seemed to be easily influenced by the promise of easy money, not fully grasping the reality of what they were actually agreeing to. With her team assembled, Denali needed to choose a victim, someone they could easily lure away, someone who trusted them completely. Tragically, her choice landed on her best friend, Cynthia. Denali confided in Tyler about the drama involving that boy named Zach, and Tyler suggested, if Cece's actions hurt you so much, why don't you just get her back? Cynthia's trusting nature and her disability made her, in Denali's eyes at least, the perfect target. Denali could get revenge and get paid for it. It was totally worth it. Cynthia wouldn't question them. She wouldn't fight back, and she would happily go along with whatever her best friend suggested. The plan began to solidify. On June 2nd, 2019, the group put their horrific plot into motion. That morning, Denali called Cynthia and invited her on a hike to Thunderbird Falls, a popular and scenic trail just outside of Anchorage. In that group, hike was code for going somewhere to get high. They had done it before. I'm not sure if Cynthia had been involved in this before, but she agreed. Thunderbird Falls is a beautiful spot known for its waterfalls and this lush, beautiful forest, but parts of the trail are pretty secluded, away from prying eyes. Cynthia, excited to spend the day with her friends, quickly got ready. Her father, Timothy, remembers her being happy and really excited that morning. It was the last time he would see his daughter alive. Denali picked Cynthia up in Caleb's car and they drove to a park where they met up with Caden. Caleb was involved in the planning, but wasn't really physically present for the hike itself, but he had driven Denali to pick up Cynthia and to pick up Caden. So the four teenagers, they drove around in the car getting high, and Denali talked on the phone with Tyler during the ride, and then after the call, she talked about her dreams with Tyler and how rich he was and how he was going to come and take her away and take her to live in this big house far away from Alaska. Cynthia was happy for Denali. She had never been in love before, and it was nice to hear about her best friend's dreams. Once at Thunderbird Falls, Denali, Caden, and Cynthia left Caleb's car and then began their hike. As they walked deeper into the woods, away from the main trail, this friendly outing turned into a nightmare. Instead of heading for the falls, they abandoned the trail and followed another path that ran alongside the Eklutna River, and they walked until they found this isolated clearing. Once they were in this secluded spot, Denali and Caden turned on Cynthia. They told Cynthia they were playing a game. They suggested they duct tape each other and take photos. It was just harmless fun, and Cynthia agreed to go first. They used duct tape to bind her hands and feet and placed tape over her mouth to stop her from screaming. They took photos and videos of her, Denali sending them to Tyler as proof that they were carrying out his instructions. At some point, Cynthia, terrified and confused, managed to get the tape off her mouth. She told them she knew they were in trouble and that she was going to call the police, that she'd say they kidnapped her and assaulted her. That threat, sadly, sealed her fate. This is when Caden took out a 9mm gun. He shot Cynthia once in the back of the head. Cynthia flopped over to the side, her body still trembling, as they pushed her small body into the shallow, ice-cold waters of the Eklutna River. To cover their tracks and create a false timeline, Denali then used Cynthia's phone to send a text message to Cynthia's own sister. The text said that Cynthia had been dropped off at Polar Bear Park in Anchorage and that a new boyfriend was going to pick her up. They then went to that same park and took her purse, her clothes, and phone, and I believe the gun too, and burned it. Their motive was sickeningly very simple: money. Denali was motivated by the promise of $9 million from a man she had never met, a fantasy she was willing to kill for. Caden and Caleb were motivated by their smaller share of this fantasy fortune. They killed Cynthia because they saw her not as a human being or as a friend, but as an obstacle to this life of wealth. After the murder, Denali and Caden went about their day. I'm not sure if Caleb actually drove them back to their houses or anything like that, but I'm sure he was involved. So later that day, Denali and Caden went to visit Denali's biological mom, Nicole. I believe Nicole and Denali had reconnected in recent months and now had a friendly relationship. At Nicole's house, the two of them told her that they went out to Thunderbird Falls with a friend of theirs, a girl named Cece. They went on to say that they shot Cece in the head and pushed her body into the Eklutna River. Denali said she did this at the request of this millionaire man she met online who promised her $9 million for the murder. Denali said the initial plan was to actually fake Cece's death and then collect the money, but the plan went wrong. Nicole was really shocked and didn't even believe the story. However, conversations after the murder with Tyler went even more left. Tyler wrote, "I wish I never made a deal with you in the first place. We can meet, but once I see a cop, I'm telling him or her that I made you rape people and kill Cece. I don't even deserve you. I still want kids, but I can't because, I have like a fetish that I'm trying to get over. I also have a rape fetish I want to get over, so I can never get help or be in a healthy relationship. Denali proceeded to delete all text messages and conversations with Tyler, convinced that this would remove all traces of any digital evidence. Meanwhile, Cynthia's poor parents were growing really worried. Cynthia was supposed to meet her father to collect money for a job she completed, and when she didn't come home that evening, they started calling her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Her father, Timothy, knew something was wrong. Cynthia was always in contact. Timothy then contacted Denali, who he knew as Angela, and Angela told him, I was with Cynthia for a bit, but I dropped her off at Polar Bear Park in Anchorage. Angela seemed surprised that Cece hadn't returned home yet, but assured him, she's gonna come home soon. Don't worry about it. She'll be home. But Timothy rounded up his friends and family and went looking for Cynthia. They searched local spots like malls, parks, and shops, but there was no sign of Cynthia. The next day, June 3rd, he reported his 19-year-old daughter missing to the Anchorage Police Department, who assured him they would be on the lookout. But Cynthia's family knew something was really wrong. The community immediately rallied, with friends and family organizing search parties, desperately hoping to find her safe. The investigation started moving very quickly, and the key piece of evidence was the text message sent from Cynthia's phone. It was the last known communication from her and immediately pointed police in a specific direction. Police tracked the phone's location to the park mentioned in the text message. When they reviewed surveillance footage from the area, they didn't see Cynthia at all. Instead, they saw Denali. This immediately made Denali a person of interest, obviously. When police brought her in for questioning on June 4th, just 2 days after the murder, she initially denied knowing anything about Cynthia's disappearance. She said they were just playing in the woods, and then her story quickly fell apart. She first claimed while they were fooling around near the river, Caden grabbed a gun and shot her. However, the search warrants for her phone uncovered explicit images of children sent to a person called Babe. Denali also posted a Snapchat story essentially confessing to the murder. In this video, she says, "I just want to thank everyone that's been there for me my whole life and these past few years and everything. I fucked up. I know I did. If I could take back what I've done, I can't. I'm sorry, everybody, my family, my friends. I guess you will hear from me when you hear from me, but I won't be back for a long time. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to do it." So with all this evidence presented, Denali confessed. And she didn't just confess to her own involvement. She laid out this entire plot implicating Caleb, Caden, and the mysterious online millionaire, Tyler. She told them everything: the $9 million offer, the plan, the gruesome details of what happened at Thunderbird Falls. When Nicole saw Timothy on the news pleading about the whereabouts of his missing daughter, Nicole then went to the police with the information she had. Based on Denali's confession, the police were able to locate Cynthia's body. On June 4th, searchers found her body in the Eklutna River, just as Denali had described. The scene was just as horrific as the confession. Cynthia's legs were bound at the ankles with duct tape. She had head trauma, a bullet wound to the back of her head. Forensic teams found a shell casing, duct tape, and Cynthia's ID card near the riverbank. It was clear that this was the site of her murder. So with the confession and the physical evidence, police arrested Denali, Caleb, and Caden. But the investigation wasn't over. They still had to find this supposed mastermind, Tyler. This is where the digital trail came in. Investigators worked with federal agencies to trace the Snapchat account and other digital communications. The FBI found text messages between Tyler and Denali that outlined their plans to assault children together. One message from Tyler said, "So are you going to the 14-year-old?" And Denali replied, "Nah, I'm going to go buy weed first. I want her to get high for it so she doesn't fight me. I love you." Okay, you ready? Just trigger warning. Tyler instructed Denali to assault and send him videos of the assault. He also told Denali to assault and film a 15-year-old. Sickeningly, footage of these freaking assaults were discovered later on Tyler's phone. Graphic footage showed Denali SAing 2 minors, one being just 8 or 9 years old and the other being 15, just as Tyler instructed. Denali complied because she wanted to make her online boyfriend happy and to profit from his millions of dollars. Disgusting. Well, as I'm sure you figured out by now, Tyler was not a millionaire from Kansas. In fact, he wasn't named Tyler at all. Denali didn't even know she had been duped. His real name was Darren Schillmiller, a 21-year-old porn addict from Indiana. He was not rich, he was not charming, he was not cute. He was actually shy and really awkward. He looked nothing like the Tyler he had sent Denali, who was essentially a supermodel. He looked much older than 21. He was overweight and balding. He was a normal guy living a normal life and working a normal job. He lived in New Salisbury, Indiana, a small, quiet agricultural town of only 600 people. He lived with family in this small brick home. He had created this entire Tyler persona as a sick fantasy. He had been catfishing young, vulnerable women online, feeding them lies and manipulating them into acting out his violent and sexual fantasies. He never had $9 million. Who knows if he even had $20? This entire offer was a lie, a tool he used to get Denali to commit murder for his own twisted gratification. People that knew him claimed him to actually be a really awkward guy who made other people awkward around him. He would harass girls in high school, asking them to send nudes or pics in bikinis. He would even ask other parents, moms in particular, for photos of their children. His other online relationships fell apart when he would request the same from them. Makes sense. Most normal people would repulse at a request like that. However, Denali was different. She was young and desperate. She was unhappy with the life she was born into. She was chasing a fantasy, and Tyler could make it real in her mind. But someone had to pay the price, and sadly, Cynthia was the target. In October 2019, Darren was arrested in Indiana and extradited to Alaska to face charges. Darren confessed to all the main elements of the film. He confessed that Denali sent him photos and videos during the time they were with Cynthia in the woods, and even of Cynthia's dead body after. He admitted to being Tyler and requesting the film and blackmailing Denali into SAing other minor children. He admitted that he had other women he was talking to online, hoping to get them to fulfill the same sick fantasies. The court cases for the 4 co-conspirators moved forward. The prosecution painted a clear picture of cold-blooded, premeditated murder for hire, orchestrated by a manipulative catfish and carried out by greedy, impressionable young people. The defense for Denali argued that she was a victim herself, a victim of child abuse and of Darren's sophisticated manipulation. And while her background was undeniably tragic, the prosecution maintained that it did not excuse her actions. She made a choice to kill her best friend. Caden claimed he blacked out during the entire violent act, from the time they began taking photos of Cynthia till the time he shot her. He claimed he wasn't even sure if the bullet killed her or if she had drowned. Caden blamed the whole thing on Denali, claiming she brought the gun because she wanted him to do it. Denali also claimed the text message sent to Cynthia's sister, claiming that they dropped Cynthia off at the park, was all Caden's idea. She only complied out of fear in the moment. In the end, the justice system delivered severe sentences for the main players. Darren Schillmiller, the catfish mastermind, pleaded guilty to solicitation to commit murder and was sentenced in January 2024 to 99 years in prison. Caden McIntosh, the one who pulled the trigger, was charged as an adult despite being only 16 at the time. His trial was the last to conclude, and in August of 2024, he was found guilty of first-degree murder, and he also faces a sentence of up to 99 years in prison. Caleb Leyland cooperated with prosecutors and took a plea deal. He pled guilty to second-degree murder for his role in the crime and was sentenced to a lesser term in exchange for his testimony against the others, and he received 30 years in prison. Denali Brehmer, the one who orchestrated the killing, pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. In February 2024, she was also sentenced to 99 years in prison. At her sentencing, she gave a tearful apology to Cynthia's family, but the judge noted the cold-blooded nature of the entire crime. So apparently there were also 2 more juveniles, Jane Doe and John Doe, involved in the murder of Cynthia, but I couldn't find out exactly what their involvement was, and their cases are being obviously handled privately. This case is just a horrifying storm of so many modern-day issues. What could have been done differently? It's a pretty tough question. This crime sits at the intersection of poverty, childhood trauma, a lack of digital literacy, lack of good parenting, and just for Denali, her tragic upbringing made her uniquely vulnerable. Not only, was she abused mentally and physically, the neglect she faced at an early age played a really vital role. Her basic needs for safety, stability, and emotional support were completely lacking, leaving Denali to fend for herself from a really young age. Maybe if she had received help for the trauma she endured as a child, she wouldn't have been so desperate for an escape that she'd believe this fantasy like the one Darren offered. Was she mentally impaired? While she wasn't declared legally insane, her judgment was clearly compromised by her life experiences and immaturity. She was incredibly naive to believe such a wild story, but it seems she really didn't need that much convincing at all. But that doesn't make her not responsible for the choices she made. The fact that 4 more people, kids essentially, 2 being Caden and Caleb, were willing to kill someone for money, that honestly is not really life-changing, shows again how naive they were all as well. The role of social media here is terrifying. Darren was able to build an entirely fake world and use it to reach across the country and manipulate a group of teenagers into committing murder. It's a clear reminder that the people we meet online are not always who they say they are. It shows how desperately we need better education around online safety and critical thinking. We need to teach kids to question what they see online, to recognize the signs of grooming and manipulation, and to understand that promises that seem too good to be freaking true almost always are. The effect on the community in Anchorage and on Cynthia's family is immeasurable. Cynthia's parents lost their daughter in the most brutal way imaginable at the hands of someone she considered her best friend. Cynthia worked hard to build an independent life despite the challenges she faced. She was a loyal friend, close to those around her, trusting that other people would be the same. She deserved to grow up, enjoy the simple joys of life. Her family has shown incredible strength throughout the legal process, sitting through every single hearing to ensure that their daughter got justice. They continue to remember Cynthia for the loving, happy person she was and not for the way she died. So to make matters worse, and this honestly devastated me further and really makes me question why good people have such horrible things happen to them sometimes. So each year on the anniversary of Cynthia's death, her father, Timothy, would hold a memorial motorcycle ride in honor of his daughter. So on the 5th anniversary of her death on 2nd June 2024, Timothy took his final ride in memory of his daughter. He was riding with 15 other motorcycle drivers and others following in cars, totaling to about 50 people, and live music and a celebration were planned at the final stop. His wife Barbara was on the back of the bike with him when he lost control and crashed. Timothy died in hospital while Barbara had to be treated for serious injuries, and crazily, this was the first time she rode with him. Usually she would follow along in a car. So it's just so tragic. This case is such a lesson in the devastating consequences of online fantasies colliding with reality. It's a story about a young woman who was failed by her family and society long before she even met Darren, and another young woman whose trust and innocence made her an easy target. It's such a tragedy and should never have happened. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Have you heard about this case? I just heard about it. And it's just so heavy, and it really shows how a chain of bad decisions and manipulations and vulnerable people can lead to the most devastating outcome. I'll see you guys in the next video, and down in the comments, stay safe and look out for one another. Besitos. Mwah. Bye.